screen and I'm going to work through a PowerPoint I created that targets various aspects of the Zoom platform and how to use that when facilitating one of our programs. On Zoom, as you may have already noticed, there are endless things you can learn how to do, but we could be running in circles learning things that are not necessary. So I focused in on the aspects that you will actually use when facilitating a small group. So my plan at this point is to run through the PowerPoint and then have plenty of time for Q&A. But since it's just the two of you, if there's a particular point that I'm making that is confusing or you have a clarifying question, feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt me in that moment. If we have more of us on the call, then I'd ask you to wait, but I'm fine with you interrupting along the way. And I know that can be helpful to ask a question as we go, since it's a lot of content. So I will go ahead and share my screen, which I will be teaching you how to do here in a little bit. So we are going to look at these different aspects of Zoom. So we're going to first look at the host screen, explore the settings, explore Zoom security, how to actually schedule a meeting, how to share a document through screen sharing or a video, and then how to conduct breakout rooms. And then, as I said, plenty of time for Q&A. So throughout the PowerPoint, I've used images that are actually from Zoom's training. So that's where I'm getting a lot of these images. They just are available images and documents, support documents that I'm utilizing. And right here is what we call the host screen. So because I scheduled this call and started the call, I'm what we call a host, and you all would be the participants. And everyone on a Zoom call has a toolbar. So as you see that I'm pointing my cursor right here, this toolbar sometimes is on the top of a screen, but most often it's on the bottom, depending on whether you're using a computer, a laptop, or an iPad. And on the toolbar are all the different functions that we're going to explore today. You may see, for example, a polling function right here. There's a few that are on here that you probably won't have on your toolbar because it depends on how you set up the settings, which we'll get to in a minute. But the toolbar is where you go to start and stop your audio, your video, to share a screen, to do breakout rooms, anything that any function you need to do is on that toolbar. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is up in this top right-hand corner. So right here, you see the words, and I know it's small, but it says speaker view. And speaker view is when you click speaker view, what happens is you see only the face in large of the person who's speaking. So when you're in speaker view, it helps you to really focus in on the one person who's talking. When you're in display view, which is actually what you're seeing on this image right here, you see every person as a tile. So every person, depending on how many people in the group are expanded or condensed accordingly, and you see everyone's face at once. It's kind of a personal preference on which display view you prefer, but that's exactly where you go to change that to either speaker or display view. Now, Zoom settings. So before you even begin a Zoom meeting, you have to think about your account settings. So in order to adjust your account settings, you go to the Zoom webpage, which is zoom.us, and you sign in with your username and password. Once you've signed in, on the left-hand side, there's a column of categories. One of those is meetings, and below meetings, you see settings. Again, it's on the left-hand side of the screen when you log in. And when you click on settings, it then pulls up a page that has every setting that you can adjust on the Zoom account. And you can begin walking through the steps of adjusting those settings. And let me pause for just a moment because I see, Juliet, you taking notes. I will share these slides with you as well as a recording of me, my presentation. So take notes as they support you, but I don't want you to feel like you've got to write everything down because I will, again, send you that material. So suggested settings, there are probably around 50 different settings in Zoom. Some of them have no impact on the meeting and some of them have significant impact. So what I've done is highlight the most important settings to ensure that you either turn them off or on depending on what's appropriate. And I'm just going to walk down through this list of 9 settings. The first is to turn off join before host. That setting, what it does is it either allows or disallows a participant to join before the host. So as you may have noticed today, you couldn't get on the call before I let you in. You were stuck in what's called a waiting room. But if I had join before her host turned on, then you could actually get in the room and start the meeting without me present. And for security reasons, we don't want anyone to be able to just join the meeting before the host is there and accepting them into the call. The next setting of turn on the waiting room. It is the place that you just were before I let you in. So it's kind of a holding room. I mean, it's a virtual waiting room, like you'd go to the doctor and be in the waiting room. And again, that allows me as the host to control when you all come into the meeting and to ensure that I'm ready and I know who's joining the call. We also suggest that people turn on the setting that mutes participants upon entry. Because if you don't have someone muted, they might join the call with the child screaming in the background or with who knows what going on in their background. And by allowing them to control when they turn off and on their audio, that just gives the participants that flexibility and doesn't require that they're in a silent room to get on the call. The next function is the chat setting. And the chat setting is on the toolbar and it allows you to send messages to the group. And there's 3 different chat settings. You can chat with everyone, chat with the host, or chat individually. And if it's with just the host, then you could only send individual messages to me. If it's with everyone, then Juliet, you could send a message and all 3 of us would be able to see it in the chat. And if it's one-on-one, that would mean you can chat with anyone one-on-one. So for example, Juliet, you could send a message to Walter and Walter could send a message to Kathy. And what I typically recommend is that you just enable the chat with everyone and chat with host, because I then don't have to worry that Walter and Juliet are sending messages to each other during the meeting, or if a person who's not wanted on the call joins and they start sending inappropriate messages individually. It just helps control the communication. Then we have turn on co-host. So on a Zoom call, as I mentioned, I'm the host because I started the meeting and it's through my account. But if I wanted to give one of you co-host capability, that would allow you as a co-host to have all the same capabilities that I do. So you could start breakout rooms, you could share your screen, you could mute and unmute participants. So I recommend that if all the facilitators in a team feel comfortable, that all facilitators are made co-hosts. And that means that if I'm leading a part of the discussion in the Just Faith group and asking the questions, and Walter's my co-host, and Kathy accidentally has her audio unmuted and a dog starts barking. If Kathy doesn't recognize it, then Walter could go in and actually mute Kathy because he has that ability as a co-host. And in order to make someone a co-host, I'll actually get to that in a minute, but I'll show you actually how to do that in a call. And I'm sorry if you can hear that blower. They're doing yard work outside my apartment, so forgive me. I'll try and speak louder. The next, number 6, is turning on breakout rooms. So breakout rooms are really, yes.
Can I just ask a question around the co-host? Then the co-host also could be letting people in from the wait room if people are arriving late and you as the beginning facilitator is already talking.
Absolutely.
Then you don't have to worry about those 2 things. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's a great example of just one of the many benefits of having more than one host is to reiterate what Julia just said, that if I'm starting with opening prayer as a facilitator and 9 out of 10 of the participants have arrived, we know the 10th is coming, Juliet could pay attention to the waiting room, and when she sees our 10th person pop in, she could admit them and let them into the call. Yeah, great question. So 6, again, is turning on the breakout rooms. You will use breakout rooms all the time in your Just Faith Ministry small groups. So you want to make sure those are enabled. You also want to enable, it's that the line is join from your browser. And what that does is it allows someone to join the Zoom meeting as a participant directly from a link, as opposed to having to have downloaded the Zoom app. So there's kind of technology behind that, but just enable it, and it makes it easier for people to join the call. And then number 8, turn on screen share. So this is another main function you're going to use in your calls, is screen sharing. And you can share through screen share documents. So you could share an attachment that has a prayer that you want to share with the group. You can also share videos. And anything else you might need to show over the screen. So you want to make sure that's enabled. And underneath screen share in the settings, it says host only or participants. And that's going to be up to you to decide. So if you want to allow participants at different points to share their screen, then enable that. Or if you just want the host to have that ability, you can enable that. Just thinking through if there's any reason that you want to have your participants be able to share their screen. And then finally, allow your participants to rename themselves. So oftentimes people share a computer or a Zoom account with a spouse or a partner or a sibling or a child. And so the name, when you log in, like mine says Leela Oakley, that might pop up as my partner's name. And so by allowing people to rename themselves, they get to go in and say, not iPad 1, my actual name is Leela Oakley. And the benefit of actually another benefit of allowing people to rename themselves is it operates as a name tag during the first couple meetings. So if you're a part of a group that doesn't know each other, being able to learn each other's names by having everyone's name that they want to be referred to as written underneath their image, it means I get to learn names more quickly, and I don't have to have that moment where I'm, say, woman in the green sweater, what is your name again? I can read Kathy, and we can move forward. So it actually decreases the awkwardness you might feel in person, where you realize it's the 3rd week and you just can't remember one person's name. You now get to know it. Okay, and then quickly, how to keep Zoom secure. So Zoom has been doing a lot of work to work on security so that people aren't disrupting Zoom calls with inappropriate content. And the first 2 are the password that's required and the waiting room. Those, as I've shown in parentheses, are required by Zoom. So when you set up your settings, those will automatically be enabled because Zoom is saying you have to have those to keep yourself safe. And the password is just one more layer of protection, that if someone were to get the link to get into the call, they also need the password. And then the waiting room is, again, that holding room where you get to admit or not admit people depending on whether or not you know them and you're expecting them on the call. And then the third one is a password for joining by phone. So that should be enabled in the settings, but just to double check that and make sure you don't turn that off. So that means if someone's calling in by the phone, they actually have to type in the password to get into the call. And then the 4 things you're going to want to turn off, and these are all still within the settings. Turn off the private chat unless you see a reason to have it. Unless you want people to be able to individually chat, I'd recommend turning that off. Turning off file transfer. So what that does is it keeps me from sending an image or a file to the group through the chat. And as far as I can imagine, knowing all of our program content, I cannot think of a moment that you would need to transfer a file. And so it's just one level of protection that someone doesn't accidentally send something they didn't mean to. Turning off annotation and whiteboard, you do not need those for the Just Faith Ministries programs. And basically what they do allow you to do is is annotate when someone's screen sharing. So if I'm sharing a screen, Kathy could actually write on that screen or take notes on it and the whole group would see it. And so there's no need for that in our programming, and it could just cause more confusion to have it there than is helpful. So not required to turn it off, but again, you don't need it, and it just is a layer of protection. And then the last one is allowing participants to rejoin. So if someone happens to get on your call that you weren't expecting, they do something inappropriate and you need to get them off the call, or even if they join the call and they're not supposed to be there, you can remove them. And once you remove them, and if you've turned off their ability to rejoin, they can't come back to the call. So if we have a rogue person join us in a few minutes and they do something inappropriate, I can get them out of the call and they won't be able to get back. So we know we can move forward without worry that they're going to try and get back in. Any questions on that before we move on? Kathy, you do have to unmute yourself, and then it should be in your toolbar. Oh, there you go. You're good.
Sorry. I'm sorry for arriving late. I scheduled.
That's okay.
So woman in green dress doesn't know where the settings are.
Yes. So Kathy, I will go back to this page right here, and I'll let you know, I told Juliet and Walter that I'm going to send out this PowerPoint to you after the meeting along with the recording. So you will have access to this to review later. But to get to the settings, you log into the Zoom website, sign in, and then on the left-hand side, there's a settings tab that you click on, and then all of the settings, I think there's probably close to 50 different settings to work through. That will be in one, they do have a default mode that they'll be in, and then you can adjust them as you need to.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now we're going to jump to scheduling a meeting. And I will add a little caveat that this information is helpful beyond JustFaith Ministries meetings. So I'm giving you the information that's relevant for our meetings, but hopefully, I hope this information will help you all in your other lives as we continue to have to do Zoom meetings more than we'd like to. So to schedule a meeting, you go to the same Zoom website, zoom.us, you sign in, and next to, I think it's right above the settings in the left-hand column, there is a meetings tab. So you click meetings, and then you click schedule a new meeting. When you schedule a new meeting, when you click schedule a new meeting, you get a pop-up box that has a variety of different fields to fill in, like time, date, name for the meeting, and a few other settings that you can adjust. And then you get to save that meeting once you put in the information. My recommendation when you are starting a new group that's going to be a recurring meeting is you set it as a recurring meeting. So recurring is a little, there's a little button that you can click to say, this is going to happen every week for 9 weeks. And what that does is that keeps all of the login information the same. So what's really frustrating is if you don't do that and you're creating a new meeting for every week, and I'm sending you as my participants and we saying, use this link this week, someone's going to use the wrong link. They're going to go to last week's and get all confused. And it's more work on you as a facilitator. So just set it as recurring. And then you can set how many weeks you're going to be meeting for, how many weeks you're going to be meeting for, how frequently those meetings are occurring, and that sort of thing. And then to share that information with the group, the login information, you can either copy it and paste it into an email. It also gives you the option to send directly via Gmail or Outlook. But typically what I'll do as a facilitator is I'll copy the whole invitation, paste it into an email, and then send it out to the group via email. Okay. So before you begin your session, so you've done all the work of creating an account, adjusting the settings, setting up the meetings, inviting participants, and it is day one of facilitation. What I recommend is that facilitators get on the call a few minutes early. That allows everyone to check in with each other, to make sure everyone's there, got their paperwork situated. At this point, you can make the other facilitators co-hosts like we talked about. So in order to make someone a co-host, what you do is you hover over the person's image. So again, back to the home screen, you have everyone's image in front of you in display mode. You hover over their face, And when you hover over their face, or if their video's off, just their name, when you're the host, in the top right corner, there's a blue square that shows up with 3 dots. And we can practice this at the end if y'all want to. And when you click those 3 dots, you get a variety of different options. It lets you mute them, stop their video, it lets you rename them. And one of those options in the list is make co-host. So again, excuse me. So you will go to the top right corner of their image, click those 3 dots, select make co-host, and then they have that ability for the rest of the call, unless you, again, go to those 3 dots and say stop co-host. And then when you're ready, what you can do to admit the participants who are hanging out in the waiting room is you go to the toolbar, which again is down at the bottom. You click participants in the toolbar, and then on the participant in the toolbar, there are 3 dots in the bottom right-hand corner that you click. And those 3 dots, they'll pop up a little pop-up screen, and there's the option to admit all, which you'll admit all. And again, if this is confusing, we can practice this at the end. So that's kind of to get set with the facilitators, make everyone a co-host, and then once you're ready as facilitators, let the group in. And what I recommend is letting the participants, especially for the first call, join about 10 minutes early. So I'm right now facilitating faith and racial equity virtually, and I've got younger people as well as older people in the group I'm facilitating. And there's one woman, her name's Gail, who technology is not her friend, and she gets really overwhelmed. And so what we've done is start the meeting 10 minutes early, and she gets there 10 minutes early, is able to, figure it out every week so that when time comes to start the group, everyone's in, everyone knows what's going on, and we're ready to start with the prayer. It also allows people to catch up so they can, chat about their day or what they've been up to for the last week. All righty, now screen share. So screen share is one of those functions you are going to use every meeting, if not more than once during a meeting. And to screen share, I've shown an image that I got from Zoom on their training page. What you do is you go to your toolbar. So right here, we see the toolbar, which again might be on the top or bottom of your screen. And in the toolbar, and I realize this is a little small, but it says mute, start video, invite, manage participants, and then you see this green box with screen share, the word screen share on it. So if you want to share a document or a video, you will first click that screen share in your toolbar. When you click screen share, you will see a pop-up on your screen that looks like this. And on this, you see the different screens on your computer. So when you go to screen share, you can share anything that is open on your computer. You can share the video you have pulled up, a PDF document, a Word document, or you can actually even share everything. So you can move from application to application and share it all. But what I recommend is if you know you need to share a PDF with a prayer and a YouTube video, to go ahead and have those pulled up and minimized on your computer. So before the meeting even starts, you go to YouTube, you find the video, you pause it, minimize it in Chrome or whatever internet browser you're using. You open the prayer in a PDF and you minimize it on your computer, so it's there. So when you go to the meeting and you're ready to share your screen, to share that PDF, you go to screen share and it will appear in one of these bubbles. You will see a PDF with the prayer. And all you have to do at that point is select it. Just like this person has selected screen 1, you'll select the prayer and go to share. Once you are sharing your screen, which is exactly what I'm doing right now, the participants will see whatever you're sharing. So I'm seeing on my computer this slide that I'm sharing with you, and you're seeing it because I'm using this screen share function. When you are done sharing, so let's say you are at the end of the prayer and you no longer need to share that document, all you have to do it is click stop share, and that stop share will appear at the very top of your screen. You can't see it right now, but I can because I'm sharing, and it's always there. If you move your cursor, it's there, and it's a red square or rectangle, excuse me, that says stop share. And as soon as you click it, you're done and you're back to the home page, seeing everyone's face is normal. They're seeing yours is normal. Now, if you're going to share a video, it's the same process with 2 extra steps. So in order to share a video, again, you've already pulled up the YouTube video ahead of time and have it minimized, or the documentary, whatever it is, and you go to screen share in the call. You select the screen that has the video on it. So let's assume, again, it's screen 1. And instead of going straight to share, what I have written right here is you click share computer sound and optimize for full screen video clip. And what this does is it does exactly what it says. It shares your computer sound, so they're actually hearing the sound of the video that's in the computer. And then it's doing whatever it needs to do to make sure that the full screen video clip is as clear as it can be. So you click the video, you click share computer sound, optimize for full screen, click share. The video or the YouTube page, whatever it is, will pop up for everyone on their screen. You start the video, play it all the way through, pause the video when it's done, click stop sharing, and you're back at the Zoom screen, home screen with all of the faces. At JustFaith Ministries, we encourage facilitators to share longer videos as out of session. So to have participants watch those longer videos on their own time as a part of their weekly assignments, and to only share the shorter videos in the session. But that's really up to you as a facilitator to navigate with your team. And the reason we recommend that is because the video and audio quality is not always the best over Zoom. And it really depends on the internet bandwidth of the person who's sharing. So I could share a video and it could be all right. And Kathy could go to share a video and it might be really choppy and really frustrating to watch because her internet's not as great. So sharing shorter videos helps, and then really testing it before you try it with your group to make sure that your internet can handle sharing a video. And I'm going to pause right there for a moment. Any questions about screen share? Yeah, Juliet, feel free to unmute yourself, and you are muted, Juliet, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
I'd never thought of that last thing that you just mentioned, that if you're co-facilitating with someone and you know one of the two of you has a better internet connection, to make sure that they do that sharing. That is really great. One of the other things about screen share that I found when I start, I have a tendency to have multiple applications open and running in my computer. And I've now learned to close everything but the documents that I want to share. Otherwise, I get very confused when I open up this window that you're showing.
Great advice. So yes, if you have 15 different documents or tabs on your internet browser or whatever all these applications open, you'll open screen share and there are 15 options, and trying to figure out in that tiny little print, what am I even looking at, can be challenging. So exactly, eliminate everything you're not using. That also helps with your bandwidth. So the more applications you have open, the more bandwidth is being used, and so that helps with the clearer connection if you have less open. So great thoughts there. Any other questions? Yeah.
I've never seen a screen like what you're showing, meaning that I don't have an option of different screens or whiteboards, or I own an iPhone and an iPad. Should I be trying to figure out how to use those in connection with my computer?
So you're saying that you've never seen the share screen in your toolbar?
Screen one. I wouldn't know where to go find a screen 1 or 2 or how to find an iPhone.
Yeah. So the reason you see a whiteboard there and iPad is because the whiteboard is enabled in my settings. For JustFaith Ministries programs, we actually encourage you to just unless you need it for another reason to disable the whiteboard because you don't actually use it. So that would not pop up. The reason it's there is because this account that's has the screenshot from has it enabled, so it shows up as an option. So if it's not there, no worries. The iPhone or iPad, the reason that's there is because whoever's from Zoom who's leading this training with this image had their iPhone connected to their computer. So that's why it's showing up. Those two do not need to be there. What will be there in screen 1, 2, or 3 will be what other documents you have or applications you have pulled up on your computer. So Kathy, what would be worth practicing is pulling up a prayer or an attachment that you're gonna share, you want to share in a call, have it minimized on your computer, then start a Zoom call, go to share screen, and it should be there as screen 1, 2, 3, one of the options. And if it's not, call me because something else might be going on and we can figure that out together. And the last thing I'll say about screen share or share screen, excuse me, is really a comment about how we encourage people to facilitate, which is in pairs or in groups of 3. And what I've found is that if you're facilitating with a team, and let's say Walter and I are facilitating together, we might plan it so that Walter's presenting the upcoming activity. So he might be saying, group, we're about to break into small groups to discuss these questions on this document. Leela is about to share it through the share screen so you can review the questions before we break out into breakout rooms. While he's talking, I can go and actually start to share the document. If I'm trying to talk and do something on Zoom, even as literate as I am in Zoom, I start getting confused. It's, you start saying what you're doing what you're saying, and next thing you know, you're not making sense and you haven't shared the document. So that's just a great way to rely on your co-facilitator partner, is have one of you communicating verbally while the other is doing the Zoom logistics. And you could switch or keep it, if you have one facilitator who just ends up being a technology whiz and wants to just do that component, that's great. But if you want to rotate, then just keep that in mind, that whenever there's something you have to do on Zoom technologically, to have the other person communicate what's going on so you're not taking more time than you need to. Okay, we will move forward then. Oh, I forgot I even had this for you all. So the toolbar, this is an important one to know, that toolbar that's usually at the bottom or the top of your screen, when you're sharing your screen, it automatically, it goes to the top, but you can actually move that toolbar around. So if you hover over it with your mouse at the top of your screen, the toolbar will appear when you're sharing your screen, and then you can actually drag it and move the controls. I don't really see any reason to need to drag it, but just know the toolbar is up there at the top. And that's also where you find that rectangle with stop share that I was talking about. So that toolbar, again, is at the top when you're sharing your document, and you can just go to it and then click stop share when you're done. Or if you needed to, for example, mute yourself while you're in the middle of sharing, that's up there as well. All right, breakout rooms, the next big exciting piece. So breakout rooms are exactly what the word is indicating. They're ways that you get to break into smaller rooms with a small group of people from your main call. And the way I like to help people visualize it is picturing your small group meeting in, let's say, a fellowship hall at a church. And you have all 12 people there in the fellowship hall. Well, you want to be able to have let people have smaller group conversation. And so everyone goes to a corner, and you all of a sudden have 4 small groups in these corners. And that's what breakout rooms let you do, is create smaller little virtual corners. And so the first thing to know about breakout rooms is this is one of those settings you have to enable. And that was in the list of settings, but to be sure it's enabled, so that way breakout rooms will appear on your toolbar. There is the ability to pre-assign the breakout rooms, meaning if I know for this upcoming session that at one point we want to break out into groups of 3, then I would need, say, 3 breakout rooms because we've got 9 participants. I can pre-assign those groups and say who's going to be in group 1, group 2, group 3. But in order to pre-assign them, everyone has to have a Zoom account. which not all the participants will have probably a Zoom account. So I just like to note that because I'll get calls from facilitators really frustrated saying, I've been trying to pre-assign and I can't figure it out. And the reason they can't is because not all of their participants have their own account, free or paid, and so they can't pre-assign. Don't worry about it. You do not need to pre-assign. I just wanted you to note that so you don't spend 30 minutes trying to figure out how to do it and get all frustrated, and really you can't because not everyone has an account. I will show you in a moment how you actually do set up the breakout rooms when you're in the call. So I'll get to that in just a second. The breakout rooms, when they're in there, participants have full audio, full video, and full screen sharing capabilities. So when you're in that room, you can turn and turn off your video, your audio, and someone can share their screen if they'd like to. There's no way for me as the host to share a screen in all of the rooms. So if there is a document that needs to be shared in the rooms, someone actually in the room has to share it. So I, as a host, can't just send out a document to appear in all four corners of the room. Someone in the corner actually has to share it. And then finally, the breakout room will appear on the toolbar for both the host and the co-host. So another good reason to have all the facilitators set as co-hosts. All right, now how to actually start. Oh, do you have a question?
Oh, yes. When you aren't pre-assigning, does it still work out that your co-hosts are in each group, or that you can have a co-host in each group? Or
I'll show you in just a second.
Okay.
Yes, great question. And I'm just noticing the time, so I need to speed up. So the breakout rooms, when you go to click on breakout rooms in the toolbar, a pop-up window just like this one right here pops up. And that pop-up window allows you to choose how many rooms. So you could have one room up to as many rooms as there are participants. So you'll adjust that. And as you adjust however many rooms, it will tell you how many participants in the room. And so you don't have to do the quick math. And you can do it manually. So you can manually choose who's in what room or automatically. And as a facilitator, I like to do automatically because what that does is it randomly puts people in rooms and then I can adjust as I need to. And that allows for people to be going into these breakout rooms with different folks every time and learning and engaging with different people, which I think is wonderful. So once you've selected how many rooms you want, you click Create Rooms. Once you click Create Rooms, this pops up. And this right here, this call only has two participants, but typically you'd see as many people as you've said to be in each room underneath that. And you can begin to swap participants manually. So to your point, Kathy, if you want a facilitator in every room, I could move Erin to group 2 because we need another facilitator there, and move, let's say there's a Jasmine in group 2, I can move her to group 1 to keep the groups even. Once you're satisfied with how the groups are broken up, in the bottom corner right here, and it got cut off on this image, it says Open Rooms. You click Open Rooms and the rooms are opened up. And all the participants have to click is a pop-up screen on their screen that says Join Room. They select Join Room and they're in. And then you open all the rooms. As I said, all the participants have to do is click Join Room, and it's clear in the middle of their screen. It's hard to miss. Once they're in the breakout rooms, the host, so me as the host who started the breakout rooms, I actually remain in the main space. So everyone goes to their corners to their breakout rooms, and I'm still in the main space. And what I like to do as a facilitator is wait till everyone is in their room. So sometimes someone will be like, take a second to click Join Room. So I wait till everyone's there. And then I like to join a room. So you can, as a host, and I think I put that, no, you can join any of the rooms. So typically I'll make one room have one less person for me to join, or if it's already even, I'll just pick a group to join. Because I don't want to, as the facilitator, to miss out on that dialogue and conversation. I want to be a part of it. So there's no reason I can't join a group. And what you do is you actually click that blue button on whichever room you want to join, and it sends you there. And then when you want to leave the room to come back to the main room as a host, you'll click leave room. And what you don't want to click is end meeting. So there is an option where you, if you have as the host in the meeting, it's ended for everyone. So wherever you see end meeting, do not click it unless you are intentionally trying to end the meeting. But one of the options you'll see when you're in the room is leave breakout room, and that will take you back to the main room. When you're in the main room, you can broadcast a message to all. So as you see right here, you could send a message that says, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you to discuss this question, or 3 minutes left, or whatever you want to tell everyone. And it pops up in their breakout room. They see the message from you, and then it goes away. So as a facilitator, what I do, and this can be adjusted based on your needs, is I wait till everyone's in their breakout room. I then join a room for discussion. Let's say it's a 20-minute breakout room. So I'll go in after a minute once everyone's there. I'll stay for, if it's a 20-minute breakout room, I came in 1 minute late, I'll stay for 18 minutes and I'll leave 1 minute early and go back to the main room so I can close all the rooms. When I come back to the main room, this pop-up box is still there and I click close all rooms. What that does is it forces all the rooms closed and automatically forces everyone in those rooms back to the main room. And it gives them a 1 minute countdown. So the facilitators in each of those rooms are being cognizant of the time. They're making sure that they're working through what they need to work through in that time. But this just forces everyone back, keeps anyone from accidentally leaving the meeting or some chaos happening, and ensures that everyone's back at the time that they need to be back. Okay, any questions on breakout rooms? Okay, great. Then I'm going to go back to the very beginning to show you all one more thing, and then we're going to jump to the Q&A time. So when I was referencing being able to make someone a co-host or to make them the host, what you would do is you'd actually be on your home screen, your host screen right here. And let's say I wanted to make Elizabeth Swan a co-host of the call. If I hovered, if this was real life and I was hovering over her image right here in the top right-hand corner, you would see a blue square with 3 little dots. I would click that square over Elizabeth Swan, click it, and there'd be a drop-down menu and it would say all different kinds of things, but one of those would be make co-host. So I just wanted to show you exactly where I would do that. And then let's say, let's see, someone who's not muted. James isn't muted. All of a sudden, James has his kid just losing it in the background, crying, and James has to run off. I could either click those next to these 3 dots, there's a mute button. I could click and mute James, or I could even come down here. There's 2 ways to do that. To manage participants, I find a pop-up screen pops up with every participant, and I find James and mute him there. But the easy, quick way is just put mute right there. And you'd be surprised how often you actually do need that, because we are all at home. A lot of us live with chaos. And sometimes when chaos is happening, we don't remember to mute ourselves, and we need some help with that. So that is just a little display about where that is at. So I'm going to now stop sharing my screen, which, if you remember, let me go to that. I'm going to my toolbar at the top, clicking stop share, and this is what happens. We're back. And now we will have about 12 minutes for questions or to practice different things if you all want. So I'll be quiet for a moment and let y'all consider if you have any questions.
Leila, I have a free account. I don't have a paid account, so I guess I'm limited to sessions of 40 minutes. Therefore, I guess since I'm a rotating facilitator, well, what we probably should do is one of the permanent facilitators should start the meeting and then pull me in as a co-host, and I could
absolutely
run the part that I'm supposed to run. Okay.
Absolutely. So you can facilitate one of our programs on a free account, but what you'd have to do is after 45 minutes, the meeting would end and you'd have to go back and click on the link and reopen it. It's pretty exhausting. And you lose somebody because inevitably, Juliet's audio doesn't work again this time because who knows, because the internet's crazy, and you have to manage that. So having one person with a paid account and using that account to start the meeting is the way to go. And that can be a facilitator, but even sometimes facilitators will use a participant's account. So if we're in a group together and Kathy already has an account, there's no reason for any of us to go and pay another $14.99 a month for an account if we want to if she's willing to share that account with us. But yeah, good question. Yeah.
I have a question about the breakout rooms. So if you choose the automatically disperse, then I think does the list come up under participants, and that's where you then can manually move in order to get a facilitator in each group?
Yes. So when you click that first pop-up screen, when you click breakout rooms, is number of breakout rooms. So when you adjust that number to the number that you want and you click create rooms, the next pop-up is a pop-up screen will pop up, and it has room 1 and the 3 participants' names under it, room 2, 3 participants, and that is where you can manually move. So it has, you'll see when you kind of hover over it, it'll say move to group 2, and you can move them down, and then you can move somebody up. Exactly. And then once you have that set and you're happy with it, you click open all rooms, and automatically the rooms are opened.
Okay.
And that's, I will make a note, just a facilitation note. That's also a great tool if you know there's certain challenges in your group with certain individuals connecting or having a lot of conflict. I like to use the automatic because it helps me kind of relinquish control and just let what happen and be okay with that. But if there is something you need to be sensitive to as far as maybe someone not connecting with another individual, then you can keep from putting them in a group of a pair by themselves. For example, you can just quietly, without anyone knowing, make an adjustment that you need to. And I'll just kind of keep, okay.
Well, another thing. So if there's content to be shared in the small groups, do you email that document to those facilitators in advance, right? Because they've got to prep their laptop or whatever to be ready to share that.
Yes. So those facilitators would need to have that document ready to go. And every team of facilitators does it differently as far as how they communicate, how they prep and plan. But what I found, especially with virtual meetings, is it's really helpful to have a weekly check-in. So if you're going to have multiple facilitators doing multiple things, to have a weekly quick check-in. I do it with my 2 facilitators every Thursday morning from 8 to 8:30. And we spend 10 minutes at a time just chatting. So it really only takes us 15 to 20 minutes to walk through a session and make sure we've got everything assigned, all the kinks worked out, and conversations like that, Juliet, of, okay, we're going to do a breakout room for this activity, and I need to have this document ready because I'm going to be in one of the rooms and share it. Or I'm not going to share the document. Actually, I'm just going to read aloud to my breakout room what's on the document, but I need to have that printed out so I can do that, and just ensure all those kind of kinks are worked out, because you're adding in the piece of technology can be helpful to even communicate more than you might have if you were in the same room, because you don't have the luxury of just, giving each other a side glance or a pat on the shoulder to move on or things like that.
So just another thing that I've found helpful, just to ease my anxiety when I'm hosting a meeting and doing a screen share, is I just start a meeting privately on my own, the hour before, to make sure that I've got everything set up, and I practice it with myself. And it works. You can see that you've got it.
Absolutely. And whatever helps you to calm those fears and nerves, whether that's getting on it ahead of time or practicing it with a friend ahead of time, go ahead and do that, because you don't want, the last thing you want is to try and start a meeting and to be emotionally and physically and spiritually present, and you're just freaking out about that time you're going to have to do a breakout room in 30 minutes. And to that point, I'm free for one-on-one support. So if you all start this process of facilitation, or if you're in the middle of it and there's something that you don't know how to do, or that's worrying you, please don't hesitate to call me or shoot me an email, and we can hop on for a quick call and actually practice modeling whatever you're going to do. And one last thing, and then there's probably time for one more question. We do have to get off because we've got another a staff member using the Zoom account after me, is to give yourself grace. So I am no technological expert. It's actually something I laugh about frequently, as I've become the Zoom person on staff. I would never have predicted that. And as much as I've learned, I still make mistakes. And you will get to a moment in your facilitation process where you do something wrong, you share the wrong screen, you've got to go back. And I just want to encourage you that you're not alone in that, and it's okay to make a mistake. You are doing a service to your small group by committing to facilitate, and you are doing something that's challenging that none of us would have predicted having to do before. And just to reassure you that mistakes are all right, that you will figure out a way, and I'm here to help you through it. And you're not alone. And just laugh. We've got to all learn to laugh at ourselves a little bit, because it's either that or to feel stressed. And I tend to encourage humor, because we're all in it together and doing our best.